was a defeat that is going to sting. I don't know. It's very difficult to get your head around this. Give us your views. Let's all have one of those collective Irish funerals where we keen what happened last night, and try and get ready for Azerbaijan and the home crowd. I think is going to be important, Eoin. I think it's going to be an opportunity for the first time for fans to pay tribute to what they see evolving in front of them at the weekend. So long as the performance matches what we saw last night, it'll be pretty good.
I just commend you, Ger. You've managed to look ahead immediately this morning. You've gone, 48 hours, 60 hours into the future, and I commend you, quite frankly, for being able to do that. This is going to be a positive morning, folks. Everybody who's joining us, Ger is already talking about Saturday and is not focusing on the events of last night.
I mean, what are we supposed to? How do you deal with that? Ridden by the referee, ridden by Ronaldo at the end. What are you supposed to do? Apart from look forward and go, okay, I think we've got to take the positives from it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Otherwise we're dead. I mean, really young team, played brilliant football against, let's face it, a very good side, who are have championship winners in their makeup, who are festooned with players who will play in the Champions League, and we made them look ordinary at parts. We also, I don't know. We're still evolving. We're still developing. There was definitely bits in the second half where a few more passes, and I'm sure they were absolutely exhausted, but a few more passes might have given some relief. I'll do the headlines for you. This is sickening, isn't it? The headmaster, Ronaldo, with his head.
Stupid head of God. Stupid head of Cristiano Ronaldo, ruining all of our lives.
It's a big ignorant head on him. The old Ron too. I think that might be top of the morning for you. Ronano is the front of it. Leave it out. We could do with her this morning. That's what we need. One of the women at Talbot Street to go, leave it out. The front of the Examiner is Heartbreaker, and it's the picture. That's the winner. And Owen Daly holding his head in his hands. Back page, that might be the equaliser, is it? Or is that the winner? I can't even tell.
They're both the same. They're both the exact same. They're both carbon copies. It's both a big stupid head of Ronaldo on both occasions.
They're like amazing headers, amazing bullet headers in the one part of the goal that the keeper can't get to. Ripped off is the back page headline on the Daily Mail, which I think Ireland livid at referee after Ronaldo's late double downs Kenny's men. I think that was a very important point that the referee wrote us.
This guy, Matej Jug. I'm going to call him Matej Jug. I'm not even going to venture towards the actual correct pronunciation. This guy's a groupie. I've never seen Matej Jug watches Entourage and is like, that guy Turtle, I want to be Turtle. I like that guy. This guy manages to feast off the fame of others, the success of others. That looks like a pretty good life to me. What is my profession? Oh, I'm a referee. How can I be as close to Turtle from Entourage or Johnny Drama as I can possibly be while being a football referee? Oh, I know. When I am in the same vicinity as an all-time great football player, I will try and photobomb him at his greatest moments, and I will go over and celebrate with him, and I will give him every opportunity to have his time in the sunshine. Congratulations, Matej Jug. You have successfully completed a diploma in being a brilliant groupie. I've never seen anything like this. I've seen vines of Mike Dean, which is as close to anything I've seen out this, where he goes into this bizarre state of mind where his hands are flailing and he's running back and he's celebrating, giving an advantage, and it looks like sometimes he's celebrating a goal here and there, but that's just Mike Dean. This guy was just a Ronaldo fanboy, and it just is a nice little sprinkling of salt in all of our wounds in the aftermath of it, when you're like, did I just make this up? Is this weird siege mentality, one-eyedness? But it's no, he really does look properly overjoyed when maybe Ali Day screwed Matej Jug over in the past. Maybe that's why he's celebrating, but he seemed extremely delighted that his record had been shattered last night.
The beef is real between Iran and Slovenia, obviously. That's at some deep fundamental level.
Yeah. Were you mid-thought there? Were you were you about to say something, or was it just a moment to sigh? We can just.
I think if all we do for the next we've got Eamon Dunphy coming up at 8:15. We've got Matty Holland to talk about the midfield and everything else. Like, I mean, it's really hard. So I don't know what your WhatsApp groups were like, Owen, but mine were like, oh, Connolly. And in fairness, I was chipping in a bit. But then you realise, like, he's a kid. He's a kid who has played barely any football at the top level, and he's causing trouble for a defence which has immense experience, one of the best footballers in England, and, you know, the sub they brought on has just joined Paris Saint-Germain to solve their left-back problem. And, like, so that's the thing that gives you hope, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. I mean, we're going to talk about the most painful defeats in Irish football history across the morning. If you've got any other candidates out there, then, you know, share them. I think Eamon Dunphy goes back to the 50s. I was trying to think, like, the handball is obviously, it's painful because of the injustice, but it's also painful because what happened that night was that the team played brilliant football.
Absolutely.
And it was an oasis in the midst of a sea of shit football that we played under Trapp, that were Nana can't be on there, and he's pointing to us. He's like, look at these guys, they're no good. What? They can't play football. What are you talking about? And then the team played football at its darkest moment when it was absolutely on the ropes, a goal down away to a France team who had some of the best players the world has ever seen in it. And we played this incredible, we kept the ball, we tried to be creative with it, we were brave. And you're like, well, that's what it's going to be like from this point forward. We're going to do this again. And then Trapp was like, no, we're going to go 6 at the back, 4 in midfield, and we might try and score from a corner or a penalty at some point. And so one of the reasons why, in retrospect, the defeat becomes so painful, part of the fact, obviously, it's a World Cup, is that we never played that way again. Like, we never matched the quality of football. The reason why this one doesn't feel quite so bad is because I think that what we saw in the match was what the team was supposed to be doing the whole time. That they were actively trying, they were doing that thing as a collective. The manager had said, I want you to do this, and they did it. And they did it after. It
wasn't an accident. 2010 kind of felt like an accident in a way. The Trapp era, the good performances felt accidental or coincidental. This felt planned.
It was planned, and they recovered from a horrific self-inflicted wound where, you know, if the penalty goes in, who knows what the score is, like, and who knows how quickly the confidence drains from them. But Bazunu saves the penalty from Ronaldo. Like, it's the kid. He's 19 and he's stopping this guy setting the record. This is like, it was all set up. That's why it feels so painful, because it was all set up for one of the great smash and grab 1-0 victories. But it was the start of something. And I still think it's the start of something. I think the balls to bring on Oma Bamidele at that stage, it's like, I can bring on James McLean because that's what everybody expects me to do. And I can stick Coleman into the middle of defence because that's what everybody expects. No. I'm giving the other 19-year-old the opportunity to go out there and make his competitive debut for us against the greatest footballer of his generation in Portugal and the second greatest footballer of the last 20 years, or maybe the greatest, depending on who you take, Messi or Ronaldo. Like, the balls on Stephen Kenny to that, but also the balls to pick another debutant in midfield.
Yeah.
Like, whose passing was like, okay, right, there's a little bit of strength and depth. I think you have to, like, okay, it's the aftermath of a performance, and we need to see back it up against Azerbaijan and back it up on next Tuesday as well. But I think you've just got to say, this is it now. This is Stephen Kenny's team. This is who the playing staff is going to be, and we're going to give him the European campaign to qualify for. And that's it. We've decided that Kenny is our manager for the next 3 years. This is our national identity. There will be backs to the wall performances against the best teams, but we're going to get the ball and we're going to keep it.
Absolutely, and I'm with you on that. And there's no getting away from the fact that last night was a hopeful night when you strip back the raw emotion. Like, it is first and foremost like a truly historic moment of Irish heartbreak. It really will go down as the most gut-wrenching moment in Irish football since the Henry handball. We'll put it into greater context a little bit later on. Like, all the conditions were there. Did Ireland play well? Check. Was there a singular villain? Check. Were our hearts and souls fattened to the point where it was ripe for a brutal sort of heartbreak? Check. And is there a scapegoat? Is there some sort of conspiracy at play? Check. Matej Jug, if you're listening, that's you.
And Ronaldo.
And Ronaldo, of course.
He didn't play well.
There's more than one villain in all this, but he was there until the end. Like, I mean, but the hope, the obvious thing to say about the hope, as you say, Omobama Dele, Bazunu, Adam Ida was absolutely outstanding. And this, like, I mean, it feels like we've had these moments with like centre forwards before where it's like, oh, Dave McGoldrick can play, Daryl Murphy could be our centre forward, but none of them had ever made that breakthrough at the age that Adam Ida is, and with the quality of opposition that Adam Ida did it against last night.
Yeah.
But those three threads in particular give us so much hope over the next little while. But for me, like, what's even more encouraging is that players who we had an indifferent relationship with over the last couple of years all of a sudden came from nowhere to put in all-time great performances. And I'm absolutely talking about Matt Doherty here. Let's face it, go back 24 hours, you go out to the street and ask anybody who supports Irish football, what do you think of Matt Doherty? I think indifference would have been the emotion at best to describe Matt Doherty. This morning, like, if it had been a win, he would have been a national hero straight away. The Portuguese people hate him, and as a result, I love Matt Doherty. It was an amazing display of shithousery when we needed it.
Yep.
There was street smarts in Matt Doherty for a player who'd been involved with the Republic of Ireland, who've had nothing but an absence of success for a decade. That was incredible. That all of a sudden that was just there, playing on the opposite flank to how he's used to be playing. It was just there. It was a stunning performance from him, and that flipped last night, and for me that gives even more hope than the kids, because we know the kids are class and that they're going to come through eventually, but the old lads, they're pretty good as well, and there's a kick in them. And we've charted Shane Duffy's last few weeks so many times on this show, but you throw him right into that category as well, as somebody where you're like, God, I'm actually kind of proud to be supporting a team where this guy is involved. John Egan involved in that defence as well, popping up as a centre forward at one point. You're like, what the hell is going on? What am I watching? The first half last night, and I accept that there will be hyperbole over the course of this morning. Maybe when it comes to ranking this pain, it'll probably be ranked a little bit higher because of recency bias. But one thing that will not fall victim to recency bias is that first half last night, because that is the most enjoyable for half of football I can ever remember as an Irish football. In my head, I remember the second half of Spain in 2002 being frantic and the missed penalties.
No, enjoyable.
But I don't know. I can't remember. Last night, first half was the number one half of football, enjoyment-wise, that Ireland have ever been involved in during my lifetime, and I know that will not change. Well, hopefully until this team produces another half like that. It was incredible. It just goes to show that Ireland can show their level of grit, the level of determination that has always been a part of Irish football down through the years. But it doesn't need to be produced in a manner that is fairly rudimentary or fairly one-dimensional when it comes to their style of football. We can score headers from corners after playing really good, well-thought-out counter-attacking football. I mean, who would have thought it?
There was a bit, 51 and a half minutes in, where we have the ball in the left-back situation, and essentially it's Doherty and Egan, and they're passing the ball around, and you're like, what's going to happen here? And I'd say about 45 seconds later, Aaron Connolly is through one-on-one, and we have worked the ball from the left-back position through the goalkeeper, up the right wing, and found space, and you're like, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, the left-back gets the ball, and it's Steve Staunton, or it's any iteration of him for the last 40 years, and he looks up, and he's clipping a ball into space for somebody to run into, and we're winning a free, or we're winning a... And this is us playing at our best football, or we're winning a throw-in, and it's like everybody moves up the pitch. But that wasn't what happened last night. And this is against Portugal, away from home. Like, who are definitely trying a leg because they all want to be on the pitch when Ronaldo takes his two balls off.
And but also as well, like on top of that, the qualification.
Ronaldo, two balls, eh?
Portugal desperately needed to win last night as well. Like they haven't been amazing in qualifying, and you need to finish top of this group. This isn't some sort of casual, sort of foregone conclusion from their perspective. So like the stakes were very, very real. But I mean, it's just exactly what you want to see from your team when you're not favoured to win a game. a well thought out counter-attacking plan. And I'm with you on Aaron Connolly, by the way. Like, I'm sure that he's going to come in for a lot of criticism, and I'm with you. Like, my WhatsApp groups were the same thing. Aaron Connolly was very much, it felt like a scapegoat. But there's a reason why Brighton haven't got rid of him. There's a reason why Potter is trying. Like, he wasn't great last night, we know that. To be honest with you, he looked maybe a little bit unfit in terms of lasting the trip, and maybe in the first half he looked a bit short on confidence, I thought. But there's something there, and the way that this Ireland team plays, he's going to be so important. We just really need to hope that his end product finally comes good, and that he stops going down so easily, and that we start to see a more mature version of Aaron Connolly as a footballer over the next little while, because the raw materials are definitely there, and we definitely can't be affording to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to those sort of players. I accept the frustration with him last night, but he is definitely part of that cohort of players that give you hope this morning.
OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. We're going to bring you the pain rankings. Going to hear from Paul Campsey a little bit later on. We've got Eamon Dunphy at 8:15. We've got Maddie Holland at 8:45. We'll talk with you about the Paralympics at 9 o'clock, and we'll talk about the All-Ireland football final between Meath and Dublin this weekend. We'll also bring you some TV picks ahead of the weekend too. Let's hear from Stephen Kenny. Here's his reaction to the defeat.
You know, we're very, very close to a very historic victory tonight. You know, the players are really exceptional overall. I felt in the first half we controlled a good bit of the game. We played on the counter-attack, and Aaron Connolly and Adam Ida were a constant threat, which is what we wanted. You know, we knew that Portugal would have an element of possession, but they didn't really create chances, bar one in the first half. So our lead didn't flatter us, I didn't think, and we controlled a lot of the first half. The second half was tougher for us. Portugal brought, you know, they're a high quality team, there's no doubt about that. You know, they really are a high quality team, and they played well in the second half. But we defended heroically and had some chances to actually go 2 up, and just couldn't quite get there with the opportunities. But to lose as we did, it was devastating really in the end.
Yeah, got to pick the team up for the back-to-backs. Now maybe the team feel like, look what we just did, we went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the world, let's go, this is our time. Or maybe they feel utter devastation. It's hard to know, and we won't know, I think, until about 20-25 minutes in on Saturday evening. By the way, you can hear that game live on Off the Ball on News Talk on Saturday, John, is that right?
You can. Stephen Doyle and Stewie Byrne, 5 o'clock, lads, good morning. And I was as entertained as I had been probably maybe 5 years ago. It was last time I was entertained as much as I was last night, maybe the Sweden game of the Euros. That was great fun to watch. That was edge of the seat stuff. That was an exhilarating experience. I don't care about the result. The result to me was immaterial, given we were out of the campaign effectively with the Serbia and Luxembourg defeats.
We were just back in it there for about 5 minutes if we'd won last night. I was
top of the table, 6-pointer had we won, you know.
Oh, it's so grim.
I wasn't clinging on to that at all. I was just so
I don't think any of us were, until we were like, hang on a second, look at the table if we win this game. It's like, oh God.
I just think we would have had too much to do even if he'd won. But it just shows international football can be more than the sum of its parts. When you look at the players that Portugal have, Ruben Dias, Player of the Year, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, who missed that sitter, and Cristiano Ronaldo.
The Bernardo Silva miss was when I started to truly believe.
Yes, same.
Well, it was like Germany all over again. It was Germany in 202015.
I was like, is he outside the box? Hang on a second. The replay from behind the goal suggests he's like 8 yards out, and he has somehow managed to get the ball at an
over the bar.
incredible angle. Imagine if you were trying to do that, you couldn't do it.
It was our night until this man scored.
So happy. I'm very happy. Not only because I beat the record, but special for the special moments that we had. 2 goals in the end of the game, so tough. But I have to appreciate what the team did. We believe until the end.
That was Cristiano Ronaldo not really into it's your movie and we're all just in it.
I can't believe we actually didn't get Cristiano Ronaldo patronising us as Irish people.
Well, he didn't get the chance to because he didn't get the chance because he ran off, didn't he?
But that's exactly what I'm saying. So like all I was waiting was like 2 questions in. Okay, here it comes, Tony O'Donoghue. Come on, let Cristiano Ronaldo rub our bellies.
I actually should have asked, what do you think of the Man United move? Maybe that might be a better question for the global media, but not for us. So I'm going to say this. I'm not trying to be. I'm writing my column at the moment for OTB Sports and the OTB app. I'm actually composing it right now. I think we should give Stephen Kenny a new contract now for the Euros.
I mean, I said it yesterday in the show that's what's up for grabs. If he got beaten 5-0 last night, lost against Azerbaijan and lost against Serbia, I think that there would have been really significant calls. I think that what you've got to do now is say what we have seen in this. He needs to be given the time to build on it, because it's a complete fundamental shift away from punting the ball forward and trying to win a corner, which has essentially been our tactic in international football all the way back to Jack Charlton. Charlton had amazing players with which to do it. Trapp still had some good players with which to do it. Martin O'Neill had less good players with which to do it. We don't have the players that are going to be able to win in international football anymore. The game has moved on. We need to play the way we did last night. We have a bunch of kids who are really mad keen to get on it, to take risks, to try stuff. I absolutely agree. Give him the deal.
We have flickers of the best football I've seen from an Ireland team since McCarthy's first tenure in charge, when we had those amazing Premier League players. Look through the ages of this squad. Bazunu, 19. Darashay, 22. Omoma Madele, who was brilliant last night, 19. Adam Ida, what a performance, 20 years of age. Cullen's 25. Jamie McGrath's 24. Aaron Connolly didn't have the best nights, but 21 years of age, as you were saying there, Eoin. This is a progressive guy, and we got to accept the Luxembourg's were going to happen. I think we're going to, if we have a setback, if it's a 0-0 draw against Azerbaijan on Saturday, we just need to accept that. We need to get away from it being about results. The results will follow performances. Same thing happened with Michael O'Neill in Northern Ireland. Took him ages to get a result, but eventually they started coming. I think the same will happen with Stephen Kenny. And we've got to think differently, without a strong football industry in the country, that this guy is the man for the future.
Yeah, and also I think you need to start making the case for government intervention to help the academy system in particular, given that we can no longer export our best young players to England until they reach the age of 18, effectively because of Brexit, which in turn is going to make the quality of the League of Ireland much better, because
it's an opportunity.
17-year-olds playing who are getting first team exposure, who are then going to England.
McGrath going to Maynooth University and getting the qualification, these kind of things.
He was excellent.
Yeah, so good.
And he's from Meath. I think there's so many positives from last night, and it's just the feeling of this is back from a performance point of view, that I enjoyed this.
Yeah. That
I wasn't, this is turgid stuff. We won 1-0. We're going to go to some tournament and get beaten.
The football team is relevant again, and when the football team is relevant,
biggest show in the country is the football team.
It really matters. All right, JD, good stuff for that. Here is Stephen Kenny talking about the referee.
I actually haven't watched that, and I haven't looked back at that, but I did have an issue with of course a lot of the decisions, and also particularly the decision to award a free kick right at the goal, at the opportunity for the goal, because they allowed play to go on. They had a shot that went wide, and it was called back for the apparent handball, which was which I'd have to see, that looked very extremely harsh. So we're very disappointed. It was critical at our inability to get we're trying to get 2 substitutes on for the previous 4 minutes. Fourth official was very, very slow at getting, allowing us to try and get our substitutes on. We just couldn't get them on at any time, and it was very frustrating. And we were trying to get Jason Malumbi and James Collins on for a few minutes, and then they scored. So that was disappointing.
Yeah, that bit is interesting. I hadn't realised that, because there was definitely a sense that we could have done with an injection of fresh legs a little bit earlier, and maybe those 4 minutes would have made all the difference. A reminder, OTB AM is brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Time for us to get into our pain rankings. Where does Portugal 2, Ireland 1 sit in the global history of Irish football pain rankings?
I'll accept that there will be quite a recency bias here, so I might need a helping hand here. I've thrown it in straight into the top 5 of Republic of Ireland most painful moments. It's in at number 5, just going through it this morning. In at number 6, we might get Eamon Dunphy's taking this a little bit later on, but it is that 1-1 draw with England in 57, which by all accounts was the first introduction for a whole bunch of young Ireland fans about what the future might hold as a supporter of this nation. Ronaldo's headers in at number 5. So I've gone with those 2 Belgium moments in at 4 and 3. Belgium beating us in that playoff in 1997, 2-1, the 78-minute winner. In at number 3, Belgium beating Ireland 1-0 in 1981, that 88th minute winner when France and Belgium qualify for the 82 World Cup. Ireland needed just one more point really to qualify, and this very much rings true when it comes to the refereeing relationship with Ireland down through the years, whether it's Henry, whether it's Jug last night. Eoin, of course, accusing the referee of taking a bribe in the aftermath of that game. Liam Brady in tears after the match. And then Paul Howard does a piece 10 years later where he visits the referee and shows him what he had done. He video evidence, I think, of the game, and was like, look at this. Do you stand over your refereeing performance? At number 2 is the 1-1 draw at Macedonia 1999, because at least last night there was a sense of, we performed against a team that are maybe better than us on paper. Very much the opposite in 1999. It would have been so much more heartbreaking to concede 2 late headers to someone crap, I suspect, rather than Ronaldo, and conceding that, was it Stavrovsky, the guy who scored in the 90th minute to stop Ireland going to Euro 2000. And then at number 1, it's Thierry. It just has to be.
Okay, I mean, look, normally we have a bit of back and forth about these, and I accuse you of whatever. I'm too broken this morning. I am.
So am I.
I am too broken. Wim Kief's goal for Holland against Ireland in Euro '88 is actually the ultimate heartbreaker, because if we draw that game, we're through to European Championship semi-finals, and who knows what happens. And that was, like, the Dutch team go on and win it because they have Rijkaard, Van Basten, Hullet.
And the way it bobbles in the box as well, there's like a sense of somebody get a boot on it. Well,
it's spinning wide, and then the spin on the header, and he's offside by the rules of the day. So that to me is the biggest one. I mean, look, maybe if Packie Bonner doesn't parry the ball straight out to Toto Scalacci, and there's one in the second half where McGrath gets the ball and flicks it over ahead and scores. But anyway,
I guess my head's in purely qualifying mode today. A tournament just feels like such a positive thing. There couldn't possibly ever be anything that goes wrong at a tournament.
No, exactly.
Otherwise it'd be like I don't know, something to do with 2002 as well up there.
We can ignore that for tonight. I think that the Belgium game, the original Belgium game, the playoff in '98.
Yeah, 498. Yeah.
Like, we were rubbish at that stage. It felt like maybe was Keane injured? I think is Keane not gone with his cruciate at that stage? Did he miss that game? So therefore, it feels like that one was kind of unexpected, and it didn't feel like we were in that game. No, it's a long time ago. I was in college, so whether or not I was paying any attention properly, or if I was just in the pub watching it, but it didn't feel like we had the opportunity to. Now, obviously, a World Cup in France would have been unbelievable for us to qualify for. So it must have been October '97.
Yeah, exactly. November, 15th November '97, and you're right, there was no Roy Keane in that starting team that day or in the bench.
It didn't feel like we were within an ass's roar of doing well in that game.
Yeah, that's probably why it's a little bit further down than the other Belgium one. But like, I mean, maybe in time this kind of like becomes the sort of start of something for this team, and like maybe that's why I'm happy enough to not have it in the top 4 this morning already. Maybe we were already working through last night's defeat, because
acceptance is at the stage of the grief that we're at.
Yeah, like absolutely, like, because again, kind of what you're saying about the Henry night, that definitely felt like the end of something. When we couldn't become Team 33, that really felt like the full stop on that particular saga. But it did feel like close to the end, whereas last night felt like it could have been. Last night feels like it is the start of something, but it could have been a really significant start. Like, just think of what the post-match interviews would have been like last night had Ireland won that game. Just think about the buzz. I think there will still be an amazing buzz in the Aviva on Saturday, and I think there will be a huge level of support for this team and for this coaching ticket as well. But it just would have been, they would have been riding the crest of a wave going into Saturday night. I do think that there is like an element of caution we obviously have to have over this next little while. That I guess we were clutching at straws yesterday. Nobody predicted Ireland to be clinging on to a 1-goal lead with 88 minutes gone, but we were saying that maybe given the attacking talent that Portugal had and Ireland would have played a back 5, there was a chance that Ireland were going to be able to absorb all that, and midfield wasn't going to become as big a problem for Ireland because they had more attackers on the pitch than midfielders, and that's exactly what happened when they picked Bernardo Silva and Bruno in that midfield. So the real challenge now is what happens when they go toe-to-toe with a fully stocked midfield in Ireland. They're expected to have more possession and expected to carve out their own opportunities. And then Serbia next week, when it's in between, when Serbia are still favourites but not hot favourites.
Yeah, like I think was Josh Cullen playing his 10th game or his 9th game last night for Ireland? Like everybody who you talk to says, actually, in retrospect, it took me about 10 to 15 games to properly become an international and to fully understand exactly what the requirements were going to be like. But I thought he played really well last night, and now is one of those players who will be in the team. Like, Jeff Hendrick was Jeff Hendrick. There were bits of really excellent stuff, and there was some bits that you kind of just want to shake him and go, you can do more here. Come on, you can do more. I thought that bringing on the substitutions that they did, like, would Daryl Horgan have been able to keep the ball a bit more and win some frees further up the pitch?
I think so.
Or was James McLean, like, actually pre-match, there was a lot of expectation James McLean was going to play in the left wing-back position as opposed to Matt Doherty, because we all remember in Gibraltar you can't play Coleman and Matt Doherty in the team at the same time. They played 45 minutes there and it just didn't work, so Mick McCarthy killed that experiment forever. Forever. That was it. The great football minds had spoken. The gale force wind was howling and the two lads couldn't make it work in 45 minutes, so we never tried it again.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was one of, again, just one of the real success stories of last night was Matt Doherty. I really felt Ireland missed Jason Knight last night. I think it just felt like the sort of game where we would be sitting here this morning and instead of being like, Jeff Hendrick, like, I mean, giving the ball away on a couple of really important occasions, we would have been like, Jason Knight did the right thing time and time again. And I think that his addition to midfield, when he comes back hopefully in full fitness before the end of the season,
20 years of age, Jason.
Yeah, it'll be 2022 probably before we see him in an Ireland shirt again. But I think that's, we could have thrown him into that category of young players that would have really excited last night. It looked like the sort of game that he would have stepped up into and done really well.
Screw you, Wayne Rooney.
Well, exactly.
Screw you.
I mean, helping out his old buddy Cristiano Ronaldo once again. Forward thinking there from Wayne Rooney. The Josh Cullen performance last night, it was almost obscene the amount of defensive headers he made in the final quarter of the game on so many levels. First of all, because he looks like the shortest man on the pitch, but second of all, the quality that Portugal should have on the pitch in terms of delivering a cross in. Now, in fairness, they do score from 2 crosses as it turned out, but it looked like before that it was like have all the creative talents in the feet of these players just deserted themselves. Like, where is the quality of ball? How come Cullen is making header after header after header? And of course it was good positioning from him, but it was pretty sloppy delivery from Portugal too, that they were a little bit off it last night. And maybe not even off it, but maybe that this collection of players, Santos just hasn't been able to get like a full proper tune out of them in quite some time, since basically the last Euros, when they had a far the Euros before last, where they had a far less significantly talented bunch of players. So you got to throw that element of things into it. You got to throw in the fact that it was always going to be a back to the wall job at times for Ireland last night, and it sort of simplified their task. It's just, of course, there's so much hope to take out of last night, but it's just going to be very interesting to see what happens when now on Saturday they're expected to win the game.
Yeah, the one thing that would give you confidence about that is the fact that when they were in possession last night, they were attempting to be creative with it. They were attempting to pass the ball forward. They were attempting to do stuff. Like, that's the bit that gives you some confidence. And look, they have to back it up. They really have to back it up with a performance for the next 2 games. And I think, listening to Nathan on the show yesterday, he made the point that in the aftermath of the Luxembourg game, they felt like they had not managed their resources properly, and that some players who probably were too tired after the first game, they went with them again in the Luxembourg game and they ended up being shattered. You would hope that this is the start of the season and we will actually get to see something fairly similar to the team which started, and if there are changes that are required, we'll make those changes at the half. If someone's got 45 minutes, let's get them out there for the first 45 minutes and try and get into a winning position, and let's make the 5 subs. Like, let's use the that would be the one kind of caveat to last night's, that actually you're trying to get the subs on and there are 4 minutes there where they're not on, and that might have made a big difference. But maybe if you'd gone on, if the subs had come on 80 minutes in, that might have made more of a difference.
Also as well, it's the sort of the type of player that is now going to be sitting on the Ireland bench over the next couple of years. Like, take for example, if Callum Robinson was fit last night, either himself or Connolly start, he suspect, and then one of the other is coming off the bench, and that's just far more coherent with the way Ireland were playing in the first half, whereas when Collins comes on, like, no disrespect to him, it's just a different sort of player who's trying to hold up the ball. What you want is to be able to play the ball into the channels, try and get to the corner flag. Ireland didn't. I was just hoping for like a Jonathan Walters type shield the ball at the corner flag last night, and Ireland just didn't manage to get there. They did get penned in significantly in that final quarter of the game, and like, I mean, you don't want to pick out like specific moments, but Seamus Coleman losing possession in the opposition half, which comes just a couple of minutes before Portugal's first goal. You start to think to yourself, God, if he just managed to hold on to possession here for a little bit longer, I mean, that would have been really significant. Just to not create something, get a set piece, get a free kick, slow the pace of the game down, take control of this, and it just felt like everything was in Portugal's control at that point, and they were going to create those late opportunities. But as you say, once Bernardo Silva flares the ball over the crossbar, I'm like, this ain't going to happen for them. And it did. So like it's desperately disappointing. Because I disagree with what John was saying to a point earlier on. I think that if you beat Portugal, you're back in it. I don't think 3 points necessarily. Like if you look at the overall scheme of these next few games, I don't think like 3 points against Azerbaijan puts Ireland back into things if that had been the first game. But it was beating Portugal definitely would have put Ireland back into the picture. And I think that the book is kind of closed in qualification more than it was before last night, for sure.
Well, it would have transformed the importance of all of the games, which ratchets up the tension, which in turn means that the quality of the performance needs to get better and the value of the experience is enhanced. If we'd won that game, no tickets would be available for the game at the weekend. The atmosphere ratchets up. You know, that there's just this kind of, that's the rolling of the team. This is definitely, the final 5 minutes is a setback, and it's how the team deals with the setback. There's a great bit in this week's football pod with Paddy and Andy where Andy Moran talks about the thing that makes Mayo Mayo. It's like the best definition of anybody explaining what their own people is about, and it's about how they always get up. No matter what the setback is, they're always going to get up off the canvas, and that's what we need from the Ireland football team. We just need that sense that, like, yeah, we've been screwed here. We take some responsibility for the part that we have responsibility for, but we did get screwed and we're going to get up, because that's what our spirit is. That's what defines the characteristic of the management team and the players and the supporters and their togetherness, because that's what's on the line here. We've talked constantly since Stephen Kenny arrived about this being a battle for the soul of Irish football, and they're winning it. Last night was a staging post on the way to victory for the soul of Irish football. So I hope everybody goes and buys tickets for the game at the weekend, and I hope the atmosphere is the same electric atmosphere it would have been if we'd won that game, because what's there for us now is a team we can believe in for the next decade, and a style of football that will flow down and flow back up. It's like the perfect top of the pyramid. The team is playing the way the team is supposed to play, having put a decade into our underage teams, trying to create players who believe in hard work, technical work, making sure that they're on the ball constantly. We're right there. Let's not blow it.
Absolutely. Like it's kind of a sort of blueprint for any young player who's like, I want to play for Ireland, and this is exactly the sort of brands that we have. Like, I mean, the issue over the last little while was not so much the style of play with Ireland. Of course, that was an issue, but it was almost like what was the identity and what was the plan. So when you were playing a game against Portugal, what is your plan A? When you're playing a game against Azerbaijan, what's your plan A? And it felt that it was hard to identify that at times. Whereas last night, yes, it was classic Ireland back to the wall sort of theme around last night, but there was a far greater plan to what they were doing. They knew how they could beat this Portuguese team, rather than
it's the best part of our
hoping
history.
How they could beat them.
It's the best part of our history. Like all of the stuff that you expect, the passion and the body on the line, Tyrone-esque defending, and it's also creativity, the best part of what we want to be in the future as well. So look, a reminder, OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Kevin Kennedy, I'm expecting a dimly lit studio this morning, ominous music, backdrop a picture of the referee laughing with Ronaldo, and Jerry Gilroy sinisterly rubbing his hands together in true Il Chiringuito fashion.
Tic-tac, tic-tac. Azerbaijan just 60 hours away.
We do need to start doing a bit of that. I mean, look, it's a great idea, Kevin, and if you ever want to drop in on any of our production meetings with ideas like that, we're up for it. Shane O'Reilly says, first time feeling multiple emotions other than despair watching Ireland in a while. Good to have you back, lads. COYBIG. I did make my 7-year-old cry last night when I screamed so loudly at Gavin Bazunu saving the penalty. They were kind of idling on the couch, supposed to already have been in bed, and I was like, I don't really actually care tonight. It doesn't really matter. And the penalty takes so bloody long that the tension just ratchets up and ratchets up and ratchets up and ratchets up. And Ronaldo's going to score this penalty, and it's going to go all around the world, and it's going to be this moment where, you know, you're an extra in one of life's great stories. But then, no, Bazunu isn't. Bazunu's writing his own story. I was involved in the screw up, but yeah, I'm going to save the situation. And so, like, yes, I did scream very loud, and about 45 minutes later, she goes, I'm really scared. You're so frightened me. I was like, I'm sorry. But it was really important. Let me explain the context of this. And that was like, I was losing it at that stage. But yeah, multiple emotions. Multiple emotions as opposed to dread and despair.
Yeah, and then, sorry, what was did you make your family cry again when Egan scored?
No, they were in bed by that stage.
Okay, right. They missed the best part. You put them to bed before John Egan scored his goal. That could have been a historic moment. You're almost lucky that Ronaldo scored those two late goals.
Well, you can always watch it on tape delay. It turns out that we have technology these days.